Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into what might literally be the most unbelievably beautiful landscapes on planet Earth. We are heading deep into the snow-capped mountains of Sichuan, China, to unpack the sheer chemical, geological, and cultural magic of two high-altitude natural wonders, Huanglong and Jiuzhaigou. So get comfortable, and let's jump right in. Seriously, what chemical and geological magic does it actually take to paint these crystal-clear turquoise pools and thundering mist-filled waterfalls? When you see pictures of this region, it kind of looks like CGI, right? The colors are so vivid, so contrasting, you'd swear it was artificially enhanced. But today, we're going to break down exactly how nature engineers this incredibly realistic master palette.
First up, we're exploring the yellow dragon scales. Our journey into these remote mountains kicks off at the breathtaking Huanglong National Park.
And we are talking about a staggering 3,500 meters in altitude. To put that extreme environment into perspective, people often pack light summer clothes for the nearby city of Chengdu, take the high-speed train and cable car up to Huanglong, and step out into active snowfall. The air is so incredibly thin up here that you'll regularly see tourists carrying portable oxygen tanks, taking hits just to catch their breath on the viewing platforms.
So, how does a landscape like this even form? The magic word here is travertine. It's a type of terrestrial limestone deposited by mineral springs. Over thousands of years, as water flows down the mountain, it leaves behind calcium carbonate. This builds up into these incredibly delicate, stepped, terraced pools. If you've ever seen Pamukkale in Turkey, it's a very similar geological process. But here, the pools are stretched endlessly across a lush, forested mountain valley.
Which perfectly explains the park's name. Huanglong literally translates to yellow dragon. If you stand at the observation deck and look down the valley, those thousands of interconnected travertine pools with their golden calcium-rich edges, they look exactly like the scales of a massive yellow dragon winding its way down the mountainside.
And the sheer scale of this place is just staggering. We're looking at roughly 3,400 individual pools across the park. The absolute crown jewel is the multicolored pond, sitting right at the top behind an ancient temple. At an altitude of 3,576 meters, it's the highest group of travertine pools in the world, packed with 693 beautifully layered mineral pools. It's an absolute masterpiece of geology.
Moving on to the science of turquoise waters, as we make our way down from the high terraces of Huanglong, we drop into the three pristine valleys of Jiuzhaigou, which translates to Nine-Village Valley.
Welcome to Five Flower Lake. This is widely considered the absolute essence of Jiuzhaigou, earning the nickname the Master of Palettes. The water here is so impossibly pristine, you get a solid 12 meters of visibility straight down to the bottom. Just glancing at the surface, you'll see gradients of peacock blue, lemon yellow, and emerald green. So how on earth does it stay that incredibly clear?
It's all thanks to a brilliant natural filtration system. First off, pure glacier meltwater filters down through thick layers of limestone rock, which strips away a ton of the initial debris. Next, the calcium carbonate on the lakebed acts almost like concrete, locking in the mud and sand so they can't kick up and cloud the water. Finally, you have these unique specialized algae that absorb any leftover microscopic impurities and stop floating plankton from growing. The result? Water so transparent that the calcified tree trunks resting on the bottom look exactly like a serene sunken forest.
Okay, but why is it so outrageously colorful? It's basically a perfect storm of physics and biology. Those solid calcium carbonate lakebeds act like gigantic natural mirrors, bouncing light back to the surface. As sunlight hits the mineral-rich water, the minerals actually refract the blue and green light wavelengths. Toss in that specialized algae secreting subtle golden-green pigments, plus underground geothermal springs keeping the water flowing and shifting hues year-round, and you get a dynamic, constantly changing canvas.
Let's transition to thundering falls and sunken forests, because water in this region isn't just a mirror. It's a monumental architectural force.
Get this, 320 meters. That is the mind-boggling width of the Nurilang waterfall. It easily claims the title for the widest calcified waterfall in all of China, plunging massive volumes of water down a dramatic 20-meter drop.
But what's truly wild about the Nurilang waterfall is that it's quite literally alive. This massive structure is the result of 30,000 years of continuous calcium carbonate accumulation, and it's still going. Even today, the face of the waterfall is growing at a microscopic rate of 0.3 millimeters per year. Nature is just meticulously laying down minerals millimeter by millimeter, millennium after millennium.
You really see the duality of the park's water system here.
On one hand, you have the still lakes, where mineral deposits cement everything in place to preserve those ancient sunken forests in perfect tranquility. But then you have these violent, rushing phenomena, like the pearl shoals. Picture water rushing over a massive 163-meter slope covered in shallow pits and hollows. As the water smashes into those calcified bumps, it blasts thousands of tiny bubbles into the air. When the sunlight hits them, it looks exactly like a shower of glowing pearls.
You'd probably think absolutely nothing could survive in that rushing, heavy mineral water. But biology always finds a way, right? Enter the alpine willows. These incredibly tough plants evolved a root system strong enough to punch right through those solid, wet, calcified layers. They literally anchor themselves directly into the cascading, travertine streams, forming natural, living barriers smack in the middle of the waterfalls.
Let's move to our final section, the culture of the 9 villages. It's time to ground these epic geological formations in the rich human heritage that calls this extreme environment home.
What makes this region so incredibly special is the peaceful coexistence of ancient belief systems. If you hike up Huanglong, you'll stumble upon the 600-year-old Huanglong ancient temple, which harmoniously blends Taoism, Confucianism, and Tibetan Buddhism. Meanwhile, down in Jiuzhaigou, there's the Zaru Temple, which is actually dedicated to the Bon religion, the ancient, indigenous, animistic, and shamanistic belief system of Tibet. It's this beautiful melting pot of spirituality that's deeply tied to the land itself.
But the locals don't just revere the water, they work with it in a totally sustainable way. Take the ingenious Jiuzhaigou water mill, located right in the valley's largest Tibetan village. This mill is 100% powered by the intense natural flow of the water. Zero electricity used. The rushing water turns these massive wheels to grind highland barley into flour and press local rapeseed into oil. It is a flawless synergy of human ingenuity and raw natural power.
The spiritual connection to the environment here is just palpable. There's this fantastic local legend from the Tibetan villagers that goes, "Yell your wishes to the mountain god 3 times at Jiuzhaigou waterfall, and they will come true." When you're standing right there, feeling the roar of the water and looking up at the snow-capped peaks, it's pretty easy to see why this land feels so sacred to the people who've lived here for centuries.
In fact, the absolute awe-inspiring beauty of this place sparked a famous Chinese idiom. Roughly translated, it says, "No water is worth seeing after returning from Jiuzhaigou." Honestly, after exploring those peacock blue lakes, the golden travertine scales, and the thundering living waterfalls, you might just find yourself completely agreeing with that.
Which brings us to a final thought for this explainer. We've just seen how this masterpiece of a landscape was forged over tens of thousands of years, and how it is literally still growing by mere millimeters a year. Yet, it remains this incredibly delicate ecosystem, highly vulnerable to climate shifts, changes in water flow, and the human footprint. So, as these 30,000-year-old terraces continue their microscopic growth, how long can this fragile ecosystem actually endure? It's a profound question to leave you with, and it definitely makes appreciating these natural wonders today all the more crucial. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, and we'll catch you on the next one.